In the city of Chicago, on its south side, a 9-year-old by the name of Tyshawn Lee was lured into an alley and executed by gang members. Now, I read all the time in the headlines, news, whatever, about gun related violence in the United States, but this story in particular, it's so vile and fucking repulsive that it's like I'm lost for words. And I'm sick of this shit being so commonplace that, it's like every single day you hear about a kid, a baby, being killed due to gun violence. And it's just like, anytime you have a period of bad stuff occurring, there's always an end to that period. And it seems like this is just never ending. I want this stuff to end today. The background to this story is that Tyshawn Lee's father is part of a street gang called the Gangster Disciples, and he's part of the Killa Ward faction. And the gang that killed this 9-year-old is called the Black Pea Stones, and the set that did it was called the Dome faction. Both the Gangster Disciples and the Black Pea Stones are the largest and oldest black street gangs in the city of Chicago, and they've been pretty much fighting back and forth for at least or almost about half a century now. Starting off around the 60s, 70s, and to this day. And what's really like heartbreaking about this story is that Chicago itself, despite all the violence and the stuff you hear in the news, Chicago is one of the most powerful, richest, and economically important cities in the world. In terms of economic output by GDP, Chicago is ranked sixth out of all the cities in the world. Chicago is number six on the list. It has an economic GDP output of $581 billion. That is enormous. There's countries out there that don't have a GDP as high as Chicago in total. But for this 9-year-old, he might as well have been living in a third world country. These people executed him. It wasn't a stray bullet or whatever. It was, they lured a 9-year-old and they shot him. I just, it, and I know a lot of people who are criminals because I went to school in the inner city, and there always used to be a code in the streets, is that a lot of people who were criminals would follow, and you basically didn't hurt children or women, and people that were not part of that criminal underworld. If you have a beef with someone that's part of a gang, you don't kill their girlfriend or their children. No, if you have a problem with that person, you have a problem with that person. You don't hurt their family, and it's just like that has went away. And anyone that lives in these areas now are just fair game, and it's just disgusting. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I think the only way that this violence in certain parts of Chicago will end is that you need to have a military intervention into the city. It's like the amount of gun deaths that happen in Chicago is more than like the troop deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan, or the U.S. troop deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan during the conflict. That's how bad Chicago is. And I think the only way that you can have law and order restored to these areas is that you just need to have the military come in. It's like patrol the areas. You have military bases all over the world. How about you start having military bases in crime-ridden areas? And like, it's just like I don't see any other way that you can restore law and order into the South Side of Chicago, because it's just the police obviously can't do it, because it's like the gangs outnumber the police. There's so many gangs and then gang members, and then there's thousands of gang factions. You can literally be one street, and then the next street over there's two gangs that are shooting at each other, and it's just non-stop violence every single day. Chicago has had like, I think the last statistic I looked at was 2,000 or 3,000 shootings, and then I think as of this boy's death, it's 391 homicides. That's, it blows my mind away. And the only way I think that can stop is if you have a military intervention and you have some sort of like huge federal economic something going into that area. I mean, we spend hundreds of billions of dollars fighting wars overseas. Why can't we have a federal works program like we had during the FDR administration, which put millions of poor people to work? And in closing, I want to give my condolences to the family of this 9-year-old boy. Despite his father being in a gang, no father, no mother, no one deserves to lose a child like that, no matter what. Let the adults do their thing, but leave the children alone. No child deserves to be executed like that, ever, especially in the United States of America. And this is not a black, Asian, white, Latino, whatever problem. This is an American problem. And the only way that we're going to solve these issues is if we come together and stop looking at it from, oh, it's those people. Those are different people. No, we're all Americans. And we all need to fix the problems that face our country together. Thanks for watching.